Welcome to Don't Fear the Weight podcast with your host Vicky Masita, bringing together science and personal experience.
Hi guys, welcome to the next episode of Don't Fear the Weight podcast. I, as usual, am your host Vicky Masita, and today on the podcast I have got Dr. Layne Norton, which I am really excited to have on. Hi Layne, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm not too bad at all. Thank you so much for obviously joining us here today on the Don't Fear the Weight podcast. Now, I know everybody who is in the industry and probably who isn't in the industry as well knows who you are, but just give us a little bit of a brief introduction and a bit more about your background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm basically a nerd who lifts weights. So I got involved in lifting weights because I was picked on in school and didn't get much attention from girls, and so I thought lifting weights would help me not get bullied and get some attention from girls, which, by the way, it didn't work for either of those things, but it did make me, I did fall in love with lifting weights and, kept pursuing that because I loved it as opposed to kind of, you'd say, shallow goals.
Yeah.
And then when I got to college, I'd always been really interested in science, but I thought I wanted to do a degree in marine biology. I loved sharks. Then I got to college, and my passions had kind of changed a little bit, and I was really interested in bodybuilding. And so while I was kind of undecided, I said, well, let's do something a little bit more general for undergraduate. And then if I want to do marine biology, I could always go do that in graduate school. But I went to school didn't really knowing what I wanted. Competed a few times, got really passionate about it. Competed in bodybuilding. Did a bachelor's in biochemistry. Cliff's Notes version is decided I didn't feel like I really knew anything even after the degree. So I went to grad school, did a PhD in nutritional science. Mm-hmm. Along the way, started my own business, my consulting company, BioLane. Won my Natural Pro card. Did some successful powerlifting meets. Then after I graduated, I actually won a pro show, my weight class at a pro show, expanded my brand, did a bunch of other stuff, and won nationals twice in powerlifting, and then got a silver medal at Worlds, set at the time a world squat record. Yeah. And then have since started up 4 other businesses. So
yeah. So it's not like you've been bored.
Yeah. Somebody the other day was like, "Can I do this to fill time? What do you think about doing this to fill time if I'm bored?" And I said, "What is that? What is that like when you're bored? What is that? I don't know this feeling."
You've always got something going on.
Always.
So obviously you're a big heavy lifter. We all know that about you, and you've done some really big feats, like you're saying, hit some world records and things as well. And then you had an injury which you're going through some rehab through at the moment, aren't you? Yeah.
So I've had multiple injuries the past year. It was kind of just a rough go. I had a hip injury that was probably some kind of tear or strain. I had 2 herniated discs in my neck. And then I was coming back from those. I was actually almost all the way back from those. And then I bulged a disc in my lower back. I also had a herniated disc in my lower back, but I think that's old. I think that's actually healed because that area where it's at doesn't really give me any pain. But the bulging disc was very painful. Yeah. And so, rehab that. And so I'm in the middle of coming back from that. I'd say I'm about 70% of the way back. So just really trying to focus on my rehab work and my my mobility work, and just trying to stay healthy. But it's part of the journey, so I just try to look at it like a challenge and trying to see it as an opportunity to learn more and overcome it.
Yeah, definitely. I've been watching some stuff with you on Instagram, hitting your deadlifts and things, doing your 5x5s, and I saw you get that 5th lift and was really quite chuffed with it. So it's nice to see that your recovery is obviously going well. Just out of a matter of my own curiosity, actually, because I've been doing some reading, are you incorporating any BFR training in that rehab work, or are you just kind of concentrating on your big lifts as well?
I am doing some blood flow restriction work, which I used quite a bit when I was powerlifting anyway, because, for those who aren't familiar, blood flow restriction basically allows you to use a very lightweight, but still get the same hypertrophy benefits as you would from lifting heavy weight. So I think that I would use it a lot because, honestly, after squatting and deadlifting so much, I just wouldn't have energy to earn. I just didn't feel like going and doing like heavy curls or heavy tricep press down or whatever. Like I just wanted to lift something light and get a pump. So BFR was great for that.
Okay, great. Okay, so so it's nice to know that obviously you're rehabbing well and then you're progressing your lifts, which is always a bonus. So let's get on to the main thing about you and what a lot of people know you for, which is the if it fits your macros approach to dieting and contest prep and bodybuilding. Right. So what got you so interested in if it fits your macros and actually counting macros, and how did you find out the differences between it being so much better than being on, say, a meal plan, for example?
So if you look at, first off, I think most people have a really skewed perception of dieting. They say, I'm doing this 12-week diet, or I'm doing this 10-week diet, or whatever it is. And what invariably happens when they're done with their diet, or their meal plan, or they're eliminating certain foods, they regain all the weight, if not more. Especially females who are listening, how much have you yo-yoed in your life? I find that yo-yo dieting for females is more the rule than the exception. And it's actually one of the worst things you can do for your body. You're actually, if you're a certain weight, like let's say you're overweight, you are healthier just staying at that weight than you are to yo-yo up and down. It's by far one of the worst things you can do for yourself. So I started thinking about, why do people fail? Like, why do they regain this weight? Because we don't have a weight loss problem. People lose weight just fine. In fact, 6 out of every 7 overweight people will lose a significant amount of body weight in their life. The problem is that 95% of them within 3 years will have regained all of it. And of the people that regain all of it, 1/3 to 2/3 will. What that says is that diets suck for weight loss long term. They don't work. So people say a lot of people. You'll hear people a lot say, "You got to make it a lifestyle. Got to make it a lifestyle." But then, they'll say, "Well, I'm just not going to eat bread, or I'm just not going to eat carbs, or I'm going to cut this thing out." Well, how is that a lifestyle? Like, how are you going to be able to do that as a lifestyle, right? So you're doing keto. Okay, great. You're never going to eat carbs again, ever. And then my dad, it's a great example. He did a ketogenic diet, lost 30 pounds, put back on 50.
Wow.
He's better off before he actually started that diet.
Yeah.
So, So where I got into it, there was no IIFYM or if it fits your macros when back in 2000 and, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, when I started, competing and I started doing this stuff, started coaching. But I remember, I would used to look at the diets in the magazines, and what I would do is I was a college student. I couldn't afford farm-raised salmon and all that shit. Like, there was no way I could have. Can I curse on here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. There was no way I could afford that stuff. But they would list the macronutrient breakdown at the end of the articles. And I was like, well, I can hit those macros, So that's how I started it. And then my first coach, Dr. Joe Klimzetsky, he didn't give me a meal plan. He just said, hit these macros. And so that's how I started, was just doing that. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm fitting Pop-Tarts in or anything like that. It was, I was just, if I didn't feel like oatmeal one day, I would do a wrap, or something like that. Like, it wasn't anything crazy. In fact, I would say my first diet was pretty restrictive just because I felt like there was good foods and bad foods, And what I found over the years was that I actually did better with more flexibility. When I would be more adherent. Like, I would have less incidences of going off the rails and binge eating, And males don't talk about that really that much, but males go through it too. And Steve Cook talked about it in the interview I did with him, which I think probably surprised a lot of people. But yeah, Steve had a really bad binge eating problem. So, coaching him, I started coaching him I think in like 2008 or 2009, like trying to get him to stop thinking about foods as good and bad. That was tough, and it's tough for a lot of people. But So I started implementing this with clients because I would just notice that people would blow up in their off seasons from competing.
Almost immediately off stage as well, right?
Immediately, yeah. And my thought was, okay, maybe, if I can get somebody to stay leaner in the off season and they don't have to lose 30, 40, 50 pounds, then okay. And regardless of whatever the best diet is on paper, but let's say they were better. If you can't stick to it, what's it matter?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And like the best diet is the one you can stick to, the one you're adherent to. So adherence has to be number one priority, and then we can mess with all this other stuff, you know. These guys will say, well, what about the thermic effect of fiber and protein and all that? What about micronutrients and all this? That's all great. It doesn't friggin' matter if you can't stick to it. It doesn't. And
Yeah, sure.
and I don't care what anybody says. There's a reason these people that quote unquote eat clean have to have cheat.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people who eat clean actually eat more junk food because their cheat day ends up being a binge.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a guy who said he wanted to debate me, and then when I actually said, okay, let's do it, and we were going to do it a scientific, so he very loudly accepted my offer, and then very quietly backed
Right.
out a few weeks later. He was going to debate me about clean eating versus IFYM. I went to his Facebook page and he posted a picture of his cheat day. His cheat day was probably about 7,000 calories of junk food.
My
and
God.
I sat there and added up what I ate throughout the week, and it wasn't even close in terms of junk food.
Sure.
So I was like, okay, so somehow if you eat clean all days except one, but in that one day you go completely crazy, somehow that's better for you than I made a really popular meme that I put up on Instagram a while back. It was, did you see okay, so there's a part where he says, I forget what he said, but he says, do this thing and everyone's fine with it, but do this other thing and everyone loses their mind.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I put together a meme that said, binge on chocolate and nobody bats an eye. Make it fit your macros and everyone loses their fucking mind, And I always found that just to be hilarious that not only are cheat days acceptable, but encouraged. And people say, oh, yeah, like I had this on my cheat day and I can't wait for this and that. And it's like, you hear yourself talk?
Yeah.
Like basically encouraging an eating disorder, So I just kind of came to it that way, just through trial and error. And then when I actually started looking at the scientific data, the data didn't even supported a more flexible approach. The data supported it. And now we actually have direct intervention data from the University of South Florida from Dr. Bill Campbell's lab, where they compared a quote-unquote clean eating diet that was a meal plan diet versus if it fits your macros, and they saw no differences in fat loss.
Wow.
So what that says is do whatever you want. If you want to eat clean, fine, you can lose fat doing that. But they did see a difference in post-diet. They actually showed that the flexible dieting group recovered their lean body mass faster.
Right.
And they think it may be due to being more adherent to the diet. So, it's like I said, I just kind of came to it that way. And then I started looking for research to support the idea that certain foods were worse. I looked at the research in sugar. I was trying to find studies where they were calorie controlled, same total calories, different sugar intake, and there just isn't any data to say that sugar is any worse for you. There just isn't when calories are equated.
You mean to say, Layne, that sugar is not the devil and we've been lied to all this time?
Yeah. The mainstream media likes to demonize things. It's a better headline if they can demonize it. Sugar is toxic and it's addictive and this and that. Listen, by that logic, sex is addictive because it activates they're like, oh, well, sugar activates the same center of the brain where cocaine activates. Okay, along with sex, along with all these other things. Right? That doesn't mean they're a sugar addict. It just means that it tastes good. So there are downsides to sugar, like it's not real filling, right? There's usually not a lot of micronutrient intake associated with that, but not always. That's not always true. So it's one of those things where I think we look for simple explanations rather than trying to look at the actual data. We'd rather sugar that's why I'm a sugar addict, overeating. It says I'm just addicted to sugar. No, maybe you ate too much sugar and that you weren't satisfied, and that allowed you to overeat, and you had less satiety. But sugar's not what made you fat.
Yeah, definitely. It's the over excess of calories that make you fat at the end of the day.
Yeah, and if you look at so for the last 60 years, sugar consumption has gone up, and so has obesity, and that's like the great everybody. Oh well, look, But in the last 10 years, sugar consumption went down.
Yeah.
And obesity continued to climb. So how does that work, Gary Taubes? How does that work? Yeah, I mean, it's just the data on it's really underwhelming. And we're even talking about drastic differences in sugar intake, like 10 grams a day versus 110 grams a day. No difference in fat loss when calories are controlled. Wow. And markers like blood lipids, inflammation, blood pressure, exact same.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, this is apologies to Mr. Inflammation, Thomas DeLauer. I don't know if you ever get those Facebook ads, but I hate those.
Yeah, all the time.
Oh, I hate those Facebook ads.
Yeah.
He's always nice to me, which really makes me angry as well.
You'd almost want him to be really horrible to you.
Yeah, that'd be easier. He's got it figured out. But, there's no evidence that sugar causes inflammation when you're controlling calories. Now, it's an overconsumption of calories combined with lack of exercise. Now, people who eat more sugar tend to eat more calories and be more sedentary, right?
Yeah.
But if you control for those, it just doesn't make a difference.
That's it. That's cool. Now, what I picked up on what you said there, and what I really want to delve into a little bit more, the IFYM approach to fat loss worked with that scientific meal plan versus if it fits your macros, right? But what about if it came to building lean muscle mass? Do you think that it would still have the same benefit? And what about protein timing when it comes into that kind of thing? Like, you couldn't use well, this is my opinion, but I don't think it would be beneficial to use like an intermittent fasting approach when you're trying to gain lean muscle mass and kind of store all of your calories later on the day.
Yeah, so I think that that if you're looking at fat loss, intermittent fasting is fine. You will lose the same amount of body fat.
Sure.
If you're looking at optimizing lean muscle gain, based on my research and some of the other research, it looks like it would probably be suboptimal for muscle gain. However, when you consider that adherence is very important, some people, intermittent fasting just fits their lifestyle better. And so what I'll tell people is, okay, can I get you to intermittent fast your carb and fat? Right?
Yeah.
Try to distribute your protein equally, but maybe your
carbs and fats.
Intermittent fast your carbs and fats, right? Yeah. So you can get most of those benefits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that. But in terms of IFYM versus say a meal plan, I mean, at least if anything, the data says the opposite thing, that IFYM is superior to a meal plan for lean body mass. Because the data from Bill Campbell's study or Lauren Collins' study, they saw faster regain of lean body mass post-diet with the flexible dieting group. So, that's not like a quote-unquote bulking diet, but if there's any evidence, it's to the contrary that flexible dieting would actually work better. So,
right.
I don't think that's the case. I think you can build just as much muscle on a meal plan versus flexible dieting. I just see flexible dieting as more sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little bit more enjoyable as well, because you could get sick and tired of the same meals over and over and over again, can't you? So,
sure.
Yeah. So moving on from the if it fits your macros, obviously this is where you started, and then you went on to create Avatar Nutrition. So why is it that you decided to bring the, basically your coaching to everybody's laptop to make it a lot easier?
Yeah, so I had a guy named Mark Springer approach me about 2.5 years ago, and said, what you do as a coach is amazing, but I would love to come up with like a macro calculator that did this for people. And I said, well, you can't really encompass what I do as a coach into a macro calculator, because it's it's too complicated. Like because sometimes I initially calculate macros for people and I get it wrong, but I can see how they respond, and then I can change things, right? And so I said if I was going to do this, I would want it to be responsive. You'd weigh in every week, and it would change things. And so we spent a year basically designing artificial intelligence via this algorithm. And we have now the raw data sheet is 5 pages of very complex calculations.
Right.
That I'm not. Somebody said, aren't you worried about somebody trying to back engineer this, figure out what, see the macros, see the inputs, and no, I'm not worried at all. They won't figure it out.
Right.
I mean, maybe some kind of NASA level mathematical genius would figure it out, but we have so many inputs into this logic, it's pretty crazy. And so we worked on it for a solid year, and released it. And actually, we botched the release because the company that made the website was absolutely terrible.
Right.
And they had said they tested it. They said it worked. We launched it, and nothing worked. And it should have sunk us, really. Most startups would be sunk, but there was such demand for this product at $10 a month for basically automated coaching that we still had 1,800 members even after 3 months of us kind of fumbling over ourselves. And we did get everything fixed. And part of that was we had unbelievable customer support. Mark and Katie were answering so many emails every single day. And then now it is a well-oiled machine, a year and a half later. I mean, it's humming right along. We've had tens of thousands of people through the system, and right now it functions about 99.9% optimal. Wow. So 999 times out of 1,000, it makes the adjustment it should make based on the inputs. Every once in a while, we'll get some loophole that's funky that we have to kind of patch up. But yeah, that's why there's a couple people who have tried to copy us already, and one of them said, we've had hundreds of people through our system, and I just chuckled and I thought, we didn't even start to get good till we had over 5,000 data points through this thing.
Yeah.
It's that complicated. You just won't know how to even what constraints to put on the logic. And let me give you an example. For example, lean muscle gain, the tolerable limit of lean muscle gain is going to be around, for most people, a quarter pound of weight per week. But if you're in a caloric surplus, you know that 1 week you'll go up 2 pounds, the next week you'll drop a pound, then you'll gain nothing, and then you'll gain another pound, and it doesn't go linear. It's up and down, right?
Sure.
So what happens if you've got the logic that, okay, a quarter pound is a 175 calorie surplus or whatever it is, or 125 calorie surplus. Well, that means if you gain 2 pounds, it's going to predict that you are eating it's going to predict that you're eating almost 1,000 calories over your maintenance, 900 calories over your maintenance. And so it's going to drop it big time. So that's what we saw. We would see the system would have huge fluctuations. And so we had to put constraints upon constraints just to make it so that it would smooth out those adjustments.
Right.
And now it works great, but we wouldn't have known that without having so many people go through the system. So yeah, now we're humming right along. We've probably got half a dozen customer support people who are, I mean, basically they're coaches.
Yeah.
And they coach people through the system, what goal is good for them, what rate they should be at, all these sorts of things. And I mean, it really makes for a great user experience. And now we're working on upgrading the website. We're working on creating apps. We're working on expanding, doing all these things. We have some crazy ideas for the future that I can't really even talk about because I know people will try to copy us.
Sure.
But that's okay. I always say, let them copy us because you don't care about this like I do. You're not going to work like we will. You're not going to have a passion for it like we will, and we'll win anyway.
Yeah.
So, and you can see it in the Facebook group we have. We have 6,000 members in our Facebook group, and just you see success story after success story. It's really Like it makes it easy to get out of bed in the morning and be fired up about what we do.
That's brilliant. That is really cool. So looking at it from another point of view then, will this system work for absolutely anybody? So I'm talking about Gen Pop clients, but also about maybe comp prep. I mean, will you be able to have the macro fluctuations for comp prep? Like a bikini athlete, for example. You've probably seen it in the past. Bikini athletes have gone down to 800 calories a day and doing so much cardio a day. Will it take that into an account if you say that you want to have macros for comp prep?
So there's a few things. We have caloric floors, so it will not let you go below a certain amount of calories per amount body weight. It will also, if you get to a certain level and you're not losing weight, the system will automatically suggest that you reverse diet.
Right.
And sometimes people come to it and their maintenance is so low, it'll just right away suggest that they reverse diet.
Right.
So we don't have a comp prep specific feature. However, those people that have used it for competition prep, I think we will make a specific comp prep feature in the future. But yeah, people have used it and been successful with it. So it can be done for that. Absolutely. It'll work for anyone. The reason it'll work for anybody is because it's all based around figuring out what the system trying to predict what your caloric expenditure is. Right?
Okay.
And then whatever, because at the end of the day, that's going to determine how high above that it's going to put you for muscle gain, how low below that it's going to put you for fat loss, or where it's going to put you for maintenance and reverse dieting.
Right, okay.
And so people say, well, what about, breastfeeding, right?
Yeah.
Well, we can't give specific recommendations on that because we're not physicians.
Sure.
Right? But if breastfeeding causes, well, let's use a different example. People say, well, I started doing running twice a week. What should I do? Nothing. Because when you add in that running and you lose some weight and it's faster than the system says you should be losing it, the system will up your calories.
Right.
Like the system will adjust to anything you do. It doesn't matter. Right. Even if the system gave you completely the wrong macros, after probably maximum 3 or 4 weeks of updating it with what you're doing, it will have found what you should be at. So that in that way, it's completely an artificial intelligence.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
It will figure it out.
Yeah. It's almost kind of freaky in a little bit of a way by you saying that. So,
Yes.
It's not like you've got to wear a Fitbit and then input your exact BMR that's done from this other kind of AI thing that's on your wrist. You just put in your weight every single week and then that happens. So what about then from a female perspective? You can fluctuate when you're on your menstrual cycle. You can fluctuate for up to like half a stone or something, can't you? What happens when that goes in?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. We actually have a feature for that. So
Brilliant.
When you're a female and you weigh in, it will if your weight has gone up, it will prompt you with, are you within 5 days of your menstrual cycle?
Right.
And so basically what happens is if you're within 5 days of your menstrual cycle, it will increase the tolerable limit of weight gain that is allowed.
Okay.
Without making an adjustment, right? So we have that. We have compliance. So if you like went out the night before and you went way over your calories and you know that the macros were good, that you would have lost weight, but you just went over, you click non-compliant, your macros won't be adjusted.
Wow. Okay.
So,
good.
There's a vacation mode. So let's say you just want to pause everything. You go on vacation mode. When you come back, you turn it off. It's literally a coach. In fact, I use it for myself personally.
Yeah, I've been watching you following it on Instagram.
Yeah, and it, like I said, and you see in the video when I'm weighing in, I'll say, I think Avatar is going to do this. Right. And almost every single time it's done exactly what I thought it's going to do, which is pretty cool. And I think that to see something that you created that has been able to impact so many people. And, like there's people using it now. Our average user is the non-competitor stay-at-home mom. Like that's kind of our average user, right? Or not even stay-at-home mom, but just, mom. Yeah. That's our 20s, 30-year-old mom is our average user who are sick and tired of the yo-yo diet cycle. They're sick and tired of empty promises from these companies. They're sick and tired of the 20-day challenges, all that kind of stuff. They want something that's actually going to last.
Yeah.
And, nowhere on our site do we say that we have the magic solution. We say that you're going to have to work for it. But if you're willing to do the work to walk through that door, we'll open the door for you.
Yeah. That's amazing. So what if, how like you were saying that you've got floors of calories and it won't drop your calories below a certain amount, will it prompt suggestions to start kind of including workouts into it as well, or is it purely nutritional based?
So right now it's purely nutritional based.
Okay.
That is certainly something that we want to incorporate in the future. But we want to make sure that we lock down the nutrition part yet. And that's our wheelhouse. You know what I mean? Myself and Katie Coles. I mean, Katie's got a master's in nutrition and she's a registered dietitian. I've got a PhD in nutrition and BS in biochemistry.
Yeah.
That's our wheelhouse. We want to make sure we dominate that first. And then once that's, good, then we'll start moving on and branching out. But I would say within 2 years, we're going to offer training recommendations. I would say that's how long it will take. But, we don't want to be like these companies that just go out and just throw something together just for the sake of it. I mean, we hired a company and spent well over 6 figures to create apps for us, to redo the website, to do all this kind of stuff. And they defrauded us.
Wow.
They didn't do any of it. Took our money, didn't do anything. And it turns out they're getting sued by 4 different companies, so we can't even get our money back because we'd be the 5th company in line. So we had to, they had done some stuff, but it was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely awful. And we could have put it out, and we decided just to eat the money we lost and we're going to do it ourselves. So we're hiring our own team. We're hiring our own people. We're doing that ourselves because we're not willing to put out something that's not the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the best way to do it, isn't it? So many people just throw an item out there, or a product out there, and it's got so many teething problems, it just falls flat on its arse, and then it just doesn't, take off anywhere else. Okay, so in regards to lean muscle gain then from Avatar Nutrition, will it actually recommend meal timing suggestions? So like we were talking about with the intermittent fasting approach, would it actually state it would be better for you to, or it would recommend you to partition your protein out throughout the day, or is it just going to give you the macros and say stick to those?
So it's just going to give you the macros. However, it does have a user resource checklist that will take you through basically our recommendations on almost everything.
Right.
So when you sign into your profile, let me actually do this just to make sure I'm not talking trash. But when I sign in, let me make sure I'm signed in. If I go to view profile and I go down, it says new user to-do list. So it gives you probably 8 different things. It says first thing is join the Avatar family on Facebook. We have a Facebook group that's great because people go in and every question has been answered before, so all the users can answer each other's questions.
Right, cool.
And it gives them confidence that other people have done it.
Yeah.
And then it has an article about flexible dieting with Avatar Nutrition, how to do it correctly. 5 things you need to flexible diet. Flexible dieting basics, tracking basics, why fiber matters, how to track alcohol, food lists, print infographics, all these different things. So if you go through all those, and then every couple of weeks it's going to suggest a new featured article for you. So basically, if you read all that, very few people have questions after they read those things. Now, most people, when they post stuff in the Facebook group, what they do is they log in, they get their macros, and they go, do these macros look right? And it's And so now we have a hashtag trust the system.
Right, got you. That's it, trust the system. And that's what we say about coaching as well, isn't it? Hashtag trust your coach, trust the system. That's good. Will it take into an account your preferences? So say, for example, I know personally I work a lot better with carbs rather than fats. So will it take into an account your preference?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually when you're signing up, one of the options on the sign up is a slider, and you have carbs on one end and fats on another.
Right.
Now it won't let your fats get too low or your carbs too low. There's certain constraints on it, but you can drag that slider to wherever you want. And so if you're more of a carb person, you drag it more towards the carb side. If you're more of a fats person, drag it more towards the fat side. I'm kind of like middle, so I just drag it towards the middle. And literally what it does is, whatever your calories are that it's assigned for you, after you deduct the protein, if you're in the middle, it'll just half those calories will go to carbs, half those calories will go to fats.
Great. That's really cool. So if you can't afford coaching with Layne Norton, just go on and sign up for Avatar Nutrition because you've got him anyway.
Actually, it's funny. I have clients who actually are still members of Avatar, and they're like weighing in as I adjust their stuff and seeing how Avatar adjusts. And usually we're almost always within 100 calories.
Wow,
like almost
really?
always. So it's pretty cool for them to do that because I guess they're kind of fact checking me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then also a lot of them like it just for the recipes and the customer support and then the articles.
Okay, cool. So in those articles as well, does it give you references for supplementation as well? So things like creatine when you're training or added leucine? Because I know I'm really interested in your view on supplementing with leucine, obviously being that driver. I've seen all of your research papers and things about added leucine and that being the driver of MPS. So what about that?
I think that supplemental leucine, if you're getting enough protein in, is probably a small effect. But there does seem to be an effect of branched chain amino acids on improving recovery and decreasing delayed onset muscle soreness. And so I think for people who are training really hard and need to perform well, I think that branched chain amino acids can make a little bit of difference. But it's all about, how much are you willing to spend for what benefit, right? Like, the best bang for your buck out there, supplement-wise, is probably creatine monohydrate.
Sure.
Like that's probably the best bang for your buck. Whey protein is also great. Betaine is good. Citrulline malate's good. And then branched chains are right in there in that group, in my opinion. So I think that if you're taking it for building muscle as a muscle builder, I don't think it's really a muscle builder per se. I think it's a recovery product.
Right.
Now, if you can recover better and you can train harder at your next session, hopefully the goal is you can build more muscle over time. So that's, like my line, Carbon, basically the way we market it is we say this is going to help you train a little bit harder, recover a little bit better, and it's there to support your training. It's not going to do the work for you, but it's there to support your training.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we can obviously move on to Carbon. So what is it, why did you, well, I obviously know the reason why you wanted to do it, and so does everybody else, because you were sick of all of the other supplements out there being crap, so you wanted to do your own. But what is it that's so special about Carbon that kind of blows everything else out of the water, from your honest opinion?
Well, I don't think it blows everything out of the water, but what I think it does in terms of integrity, in terms of how it presents itself, because we never say, we never say, oh, this is the best thing, or this is going to pack 5 pounds on your body, or add 50 pounds to your bench press, or all these kind of nonsensical, BS things.
Yeah.
We present it as here's what the research says. Here's what our ingredient list is. We tell you, hey, it's this much of this, this much of this. There's no proprietary blends. It's completely transparent and honest. Here's these products that are validated by these studies, and you can look up all the studies. Here's the dosage they use in those studies. Here's the dosage we use. And yeah, it's not magic, but hopefully, again, it'll help you train a little bit harder, recover a little bit better. And so I think the difference is that we always use things that are lab tested, and we always put in a clinical dose. We were looking to bring out a fat burner, and the ingredient I wanted to put in it that was very novel and very impressive, we couldn't source it anywhere. The one source we found that was legit was extremely expensive. Like it would never sell. People say they'll buy it, but they won't buy it.
Yeah.
When they can go out and buy something else that's garbage with a laundry list of ingredients that are fairy dusted for $10. But we found sources that were way cheaper for it. But when we tested them, there was nothing in them.
Right.
It was now it wasn't that it was bunk. It was the wrong isomer. It wasn't going to do it. We could have put that in a product. And we could have said, hey, this is in it, and we would not have been lying, but it wouldn't have been effective.
Right.
And so we didn't do it, because we have to live with it, So yeah, I guess that's the difference is I'm not going to bring out anything I don't truly believe in.
And can your products be, are they tested for natural athletes as well? That's one of the biggest things, yeah.
So we're not NSF certified.
Okay.
But there are no ingredients listed. There are no ingredients in the product that would cause any WADA athletes to fail a drug test.
Right, okay, excellent, excellent. Because I got caught out, well, I didn't get caught out, no, but I mean, if for some unknown reason, I just got given these samples of a pre-workout.
Yep.
And I never ever do it, which I obviously have learned my lesson from doing it. But on the back of the packet, it said not for tested athletes. And I was like, oh, what the hell is that? But I didn't take it, which was great, because for that reason, I just read it and I didn't take it after that. But it was due to the fact, I rang up the company and I was like, what's this? You know, why can't we take it as a natural athlete? And it was due to the fact that it had bitter orange peel in it.
Synephrine.
Yeah, so that over here, that's classed as a banned subject, a banned substance. Yeah, so I don't know if it's the same rules that apply over in the US, but over in the UK, that's definitely a banned substance.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a banned substance in the U.S. But I don't know if WADA has banned it, so I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I don't believe WADA has banned it, but like I said, like the UK and Australia have some weird laws around supplements. Like in Australia, like I think beta alanine is banned, or citrulline malate, or one of those is banned. It's really strange. And people ask, well, if it's banned, it's like. I get the argument with GMOs, like, oh, well, Europe banned GMOs or whatever it was, and I'm like, those laws are political. Yeah. They're not based in science. Yeah. You know, it's a political. These are politicians making the laws. It's not scientists. You know, so that is not a validation for whatever your bias is. But anyways, I try to stay away from products that I think will be like kind of that gray area. You know, I don't mess with them. Yeah,
definitely, and the best way to be as well. Okay, cool. So we're just about coming up on time here, Layne, and I understand that you've got a lot of work to do, so I don't want to keep you for too much longer. So just very quickly, what are your plans for the future? Are you going to be carrying on with powerlifting? Are you going to get back into competitive bodybuilding at all, or what is it that you're planning on doing?
Yeah, I think I am going to keep with powerlifting. That's where my passion is right now. I tend to chase my passions. But I think I'll probably do bodybuilding again at some point in the future. At some point. Yeah, but I just don't know when.
You just don't know when. That's it. And future plans for Avatar Nutrition, we've delved into them a little bit more, isn't it? So just kind of growing that and getting some training tips on board and everything else.
Yeah, so by the end of this year, we want to have 50,000 members. And by the end, within 4 years, we want to be over 1 million members.
Wow.
So, which I think is attainable for us if we keep pushing hard and doing the right things. Obviously, it's going to take a few breaks and like us getting on like some sort of mainstream media outlet. But yeah, I think we can do that. Now, when I say that, I'm sure that the copycats will really come out because they'll be like, ooh, look at this money we can make. Good luck. Good luck. You're not going to win.
Brilliant. What a great thing to end it on. So, okay then, Layne. So where can we find you and where can we sign up to Avatar Nutrition and everything else?
Yeah, so Avatar Nutrition is just avatarnutrition.com. And then my website, just for me personal, is biolayne.com. And we have a members area there as well. It's different than Avatar. It's all educational. So it's premium articles, video series, Q&As with me. I even do a webinar every month. So for my members. So yeah, all that stuff is there at BioLayne, and it also is kind of a hub for whenever I do anything, you'll find that information there, like seminars or whatever. And then my social media, I'm BioLayne at all social media except Facebook, where my Facebook fan page is facebook.com/Layne Norton, and that's pretty much it. And Carbon is you can find Carbon on bodybuilding.com, so you can find my supplement line exclusively on bodybuilding.com.
Okay, brilliant. And we can get Carbon over here in the UK, can't we?
The pre-workout you cannot, but my post-workout recovery product, the Recover, you can get over there. Yes.
Okay, fab. Just so we know what we're going to be, that we are able to get over here. That's brilliant. Okay, then, Layne, that's great. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I really, really appreciated it. And guys, if you've got any questions at all for myself or for Layne, then just add them onto the comment boxes in iTunes or on YouTube, and myself or Layne will be very, very happy to get back to you on those. Okay, so take care, guys, and I shall speak to you next week.